Hi, good morning. It's Leanne Boyd from Fearlessly Free Women this morning for our next edition of Cuppa Courage Tips. And this morning we're going to talk about hormones. It's been my topic of the week. I've done a talk to some women locally about that. I've done Facebook posts about that. And so today I thought I'd come on and do a live and share some information about hormones as well. So, sometimes women feel like we're actually going crazy, and it's not. There are legitimate reasons why you feel like you do. There is a profound interaction between your hormones and your brain chemistry that create a set of symptoms and an emotional state that can make you feel like you're going crazy. Okay, so we know that your brain and its many neurotransmitters are highly dependent on the hormone estrogen. That's probably the most common hormone that women talk about. So when our estrogen levels shift or become erratic, women experience emotional urges, ups and downs, insomnia, and other cognitive disruptive type feelings such as brain fog or even memory loss. And so you're not only become vulnerable to emotional upsets when you're, say, premenstrual, but also in your other reproductive stages of your lives, such as childbirth, perimenopause, menopause. Your hormones and your brain chemistry fluctuate at the most at these times. So when you add daily stresses into the mix and the imbalances in your hormones become amplified, that's when women suffer. We think, oh my God, what's wrong with us? We've all wanted to be the best mum, wife, partner, businesswoman, friend. But sometimes we found ourselves spinning out of control, ending up on the couch feeling like we have no energy and the couch is the best place for us to be. And we feel like we just try to salvage half the time what's left of our personal relationships because sometimes people just don't get you when you're feeling like this, and it can be very upsetting. So when you feel like you feel never normal, you find that you wish that you had some sort of glimmer of what you used to be. Remember when you used to be happy, but God, what's wrong with me now? But you have no idea half the time where to turn to. So you find yourself with no joy, no peace, and even no ease in your life. So what do? And I've been guilty of this too. I get in and make myself busy. And then I take on too much, and then it gets worse, and then you get on this roller coaster. So you cram exercise into an already packed schedule. You clean the house. You've got to keep the house in order. You go to work, you look after children, you deal with teenagers, you look after aging parents, tense partners because you're like this and you're highly strung. You even think, I need to relax. So go and slip into that yoga class that you've been looking at for a long time, do that quick hour of stretching and relaxation, and then you go home and chug a coffee because you've got to get back into it. Our life demands so much of us as women. We put on so many hats. So, you maybe even slip off your shoes and pour yourself a glass of wine. But these temporary distractions and activities really do they really bring you lasting peace and calm? No. They're just a temporary little measure. Okay, I can just relax for a few minutes. But they're not giving you that long-lasting peace and inner calm. They're not. So you end up in a never-ending cycle of stress and emotional exhaustion. So if you feel like you can relate to that, just give me a thumbs up or whatever. But yes, that certainly really was my life. I was on that roller coaster too until I realized, hey, this is not a way to live. And what I'm feeling and experiencing is probably a big hormone imbalance that I've brought on myself by stress, because I've tried to be everything to everybody. And sometimes I did a post last week about super mums, and I just said the reframe of a superwoman, the superwoman we all want to be, is really sum it up in 4 words: do less and be more. Because if we do less, we're not spinning out of control on top of what's happening with us internally. So you know, all of that put aside, you often wonder whether you'll ever feel like yourself again. So you look around at other women, and actually they're spinning the same cycle too. But we, you know, women are very good. We put on that emotional mask, and you look at other women and you think, yeah, well, they got their shit together. Why can't I get my stuff together? And then you go home and tear yourself apart even more, because you think, oh my God, you know, is it just me? Well, it's not. It's not. So you could be experiencing a whole gamut of unpleasant physical symptoms as well, and you just try and ignore them and move on. So, but your intuition is probably screaming at you to slow down, breathe, relax, but you feel you can't, because you've got to keep going, interact with the rat race that's going on, especially at the moment. It's super stressful. There's so much division out there in the community. It's just really, really hard to deal with. Okay, so unfortunately, there's many healthcare professionals out there that really just put it down to, don't worry, honey, it's just all in your head. You know, you'll get over it. You know, they might be obliged to give you something to balance your hormones, like the pill, or antidepressants to make you feel better, blood pressure medication to calm you down. You know, none of that really works. It's temporary. It's masking the symptoms. You really need to get down to the root cause of what's happening to you. You know, those things that may be prescribed to you, they're a temporary payoff, but you've got side effects along with those things as well. So no amount of those pills is going to really get down to the root cause and fix your brain chemistry from a natural perspective. Okay, so the birth control pill is a combination of all synthetic estrogen and progesterone, and can actually shut down the production of your own natural hormones, which explains why emotional symptoms often worsen for women when they start taking them. So you're looking at your SSRIs, the serotonin reuptake inhibitor drugs, the antidepressants like Prozac, Lexapro, and all of those. They actually increase the level of serotonin. They don't increase it, but they actually recycle what you've got there. So if you're actually already low in serotonin, they're not going to do you any good at all. So they're useless. Okay, so my advice to you is to seek professional help. Pop along to your naturopath. Hello, I'm one. So you can get in contact with me, and I can send you the test kit. But it's good to get to know exactly where your hormone levels are, so you can do a test. So I would do that if I were you. If it's not me, just seek out someone who has been recommended to you in the natural health field, and get a hormone test, so you know exactly where you're at before you start treating yourself. So, you know, you're not suffering from a deficiency in any way. You're just suffering from an imbalance that you need to correct. So, you know, you get onto the correct foods. There are mood foods out there that you can get onto and boost. It's going to make you feel better. You know, it's like putting the wrong fuel in your car. You know, you wouldn't chug orange juice into your car, or smash that little red light that shows up and thinking, oh, well, that's fixed. I don't have to look at that red light anymore. I'll just see if I can get my car going like this. You know, you've got to put the right fuel into your body to get the right results. You know, your car's not going to go anywhere if you're ill-treating it, and your body's the same way. So I'm just going to talk about the little neurotransmitters in your brain for 2 seconds. So the neurotransmitters are naturally occurring chemical messengers that transmit information from one nerve cell to another, allowing the brain cell to talk to one another. Okay, so you have 2 types of neurotransmitters that relate to your hormones. There's inhibitory and excitatory. Okay, a little bit hard to get my mouth around those from time to time. I get jumbled up with them. But so your neurotransmitters control your behavior. So an imbalance in those, or a lack of certain neurotransmitters, can make you feel lousy and really out of sorts. So you really need to get to the core issue of what that imbalance is, as I've mentioned before. So so when you look at the inhibitory neurotransmitters, they act like a brake pedal to your body and are generally responsible for calming your mind and body. they induce your sleep, and they filter out unnecessary excitatory signals. On the other hand, your excitatory neurotransmitters act like an accelerator in your body and are responsible for providing your energy, your motivation, your mental cognition, and other activities that require brain-body activity. So an imbalance in between those really throws you out. Okay, and there's only over 50 different types of neurotransmitters present in your nervous system, but you're really concerned with the ones that with your hormones are pertaining to that. Okay, so these include serotonin, GABA, or that's otherwise known as gamma aminobutyric acid, norepinephrine, your dopamine, your epinephrine, your histamines, your agmatine, your glutamate, the phenylethylamine, glycine, aspartate, acetylcholine, and nitric oxide. Okay, so there's a whole list there. But 4 of these neurotransmitters, are you still with me? It's a bit of a science class, I know, but 4 of them play a huge part in determining your mental and physical health and your sense of well-being. And these are the inhibitory neurotransmitters, serotonin and GABA, and the excitatory neurotransmitters, norepinephrine and dopamine. Okay. So if these are out of balance, some of the most significant clinical issues and symptoms linked to imbalance of the excitatory and inhibitory neurotransmitters, I'm just giving you this information so you can understand yourself a little bit better, because hormones are really kind of a little bit of a mystery to women. We all know, we all say, oh, it's just your hormones, or we all say, oh, she's just a bit hormonal. There's all those cliches, but do we really understand them? Most women don't. So I'm just giving you a little bit of this information so you do. Makes it a little bit clearer. So some of those symptoms are anxiousness, the hormonal changes, appetite control, headaches, loss of libido, mood disorders, sleep disorders, depression, behavioural problems, attention issues, weight control. Sometimes when we have really high cortisol in our body, we tend to stack on a little bit of weight, especially around that midsection. That's always a sign that a woman has really high cortisol. And of course, getting tired, fatigue is one as well. So a main contributor, or the primary contributor of this hormone imbalance or the neurotransmitter imbalance, is chronic stress. So stress depletes certain neurotransmitters and increase the amount of other transmitters to help us cope with the many situations that come up in our lives. So, and the body doesn't really discern about what type of stress it is. It could be marital problems, it could be traffic, it could be children fighting, it could be a high pressure job, it could be a bacterial or a viral infection, too much exercise, all of that, a nutritional deficiency, all of that will create some form of stress. And if you've got a few of them jumbled up together, you've got chronic stress. And, they're all perceived the same by your nervous system. So when your body identifies that stress, it goes through a series of biochemical changes and responses. And these change the balance of your neurotransmitters and therefore change the balance of your hormones. Okay. Chronic stress creates almost like a domino effect of biochemical changes that can lead to severe depression, adrenal burnout, and altered immune function, because stress does lower your immune system. And that what's going on out in the community with the COVID thing, that worries me, because people are under so much stress and it's automatically lowering their immune system. So, and leaving themselves more susceptible than normal. So, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about, having said that, adrenal fatigue as well, because there are different stages of adrenal fatigue. So the stages are stage 1, 2, and 3. Stage 1 is short-term stress response, which is usually your acute stress, and you'll usually get over that quite quickly because it's here, it's gone, and you get on with life. So with the onset of this, though, your brain does send out large amounts of what we call as adrenocorticotrophic hormone, or ACTH, prompting your adrenals to produce that high level of adrenaline to get you through DHEA and cortisol. And that's okay when it's acute, but what you start getting into trouble when the stress is always present. So the stage 2 is adrenal fatigue. And I just refer to my notes because I really don't want to miss anything. There's so much information I just really want to pass on. So I do flick over my notes a bit when I'm doing this. So if stress continues, your body pumps out more of that ACTH while the adrenal glands continue to release the cortisol and the DHEA. And eventually, your adrenal glands cannot adequately meet the demands that you've put upon them. So your cortisol and DHEA start to decline as a result of when adrenal fatigue sets in. Okay, so many women experience symptoms such as fatigue, increased allergies, impaired digestion, the fuzzy feeling in the head, salt craving, sugar cravings, depression, and mood swings. So, a lot of women have been there. I've been there. I had to correct that. So you could get things like acne or hair loss even, intolerance to cold, nervous breakdown, sensitivity to noise. During my talk the other day, I had a woman that says, I just can't handle noise. Anything. Impaired memory and cognition, feeling overwhelmed. You feel wired, but you're tired. So these are just some of the symptoms, as I mentioned: weight gain around the middle, panic attacks, even IBS. IBS is actually linked to serotonin levels in your body. And then we get to stage 3 if we keep going, and that's adrenal burnout. Okay, so you become completely exhausted. Don't feel like you can cope with much at all. And your adrenal glands just simply cannot cope they just cannot produce the adequate hormones that you need, and basically you hit the wall. So the symptoms of a complete breakdown in the body's ability to cope with stress and lead to even more serious issues such as autoimmune disorders can come in, fibromyalgia, loss of strength. You just need your coffee or your soft drinks to keep going. You feel a weakness or a loss of stamina. You could even end up with chronic infections, and you don't feel like you can bounce back at all. So that's usually when you really get quite low and you're down in adrenal burnout. So there is good news. There is good news. And what you need to do is take your life back. So you will be able to live through this. I listened to a motivational speaker through the week, and he said, what you are going through, you will get through. And I just took that on board and thought, I'm just keeping that one, putting that in my little toolkit, because it's true. What you're going through, you will get through. You just need to change what you're doing, look at things from a different perspective, seek the right professional help, whether it be, naturopathic. I'm a naturopath, a reflexologist, a creatrix transformologist. So I help women through their stuckness and self-sabotage and feeling bad like this. And stress and self-sabotage is really one of the specialties that I like to work with. So it might take some time to get back to normal. So with usually your first stages of adrenal fatigue, it takes 2 to 4 months, and then when you get into a little bit further, it might take a bit longer, 6 to 12 months, and when you get to your burnout stage, it could take 12 months to 2 years to get back to yourself. But you just need to be kind and gentle to yourself. So what's important is to look, what I suggested to the women the other day is make a list of your top 5 stressors, because sometimes we don't even realize what's stressing us out so much. We just tend to keep going, and then we just keep going, and then the stresses build. But just take a moment to put pen to paper and write down your top 5 stressors that you can identify, and then look at them and think, okay, these are the things that are really stressing me out. How can I change these so that they have less impact on my life? Or better still, how can I get rid of them altogether? So sometimes we put up with things and we just keep doing the same old patterns, when if we make some slight change, the whole picture will improve for us. Okay, so just getting on a little bit about exercise. If you got to that stage where you are really adrenal fatigued or even burnout, you know, you just have to ask yourself about exercise, because we think, oh, we'll just go and exercise, that'll make us feel better. No, not always. In fact, that will become a stressor if your body is so depleted. So you have to ask yourself 3 questions. Do I feel worse after exercise? Does exercise make me feel exhausted? Am I gaining weight even though I'm doing so much exercise? So if you've answered yes to any of those questions, you've usually, exercise is not good for you right now. You're actually adding to your cortisol levels, and the high cortisol levels will make you gain weight. They will eventually, I've had one client that actually lost high cortisol levels in women actually fry your brain. I've actually had one client of mine that has lost part of her brain function due to high cortisol levels. So it's just not something that you can just keep going and pushing yourself and expect, okay, it'll just iron itself out, because it won't if you're in that cycle. So now I've given you a little bit of a better understanding about why you might be feeling how you're feeling. You can start planning and doing something about it. But the first thing I would suggest is going and getting a saliva hormonal test, so you know exactly where your levels are. I mean, you can just test your sex hormones, your estrogen, progesterone, your testosterone, your DHEA, but I really do suggest that you go and add cortisol into the mix there too, because it's a really impacting hormone on your body if you've got either high or low levels of cortisol. And it's best to do a saliva test more than a blood test, because what happens when your body has high cortisol and it ends up in your blood, your body automatically thinks, oh, it's just too much cortisol there, I'll start spitting it back out into the cells of your body. So you don't get a really true reading from just a blood test alone. So your high cortisol will chew through your progesterone levels, and progesterone is your natural hormone balancer. So what happens when your progesterone level drops with the high cortisol is your estrogen levels rise. And that's when you get into all sorts of trouble with your depression and your foggy brain and your memory loss and so on. So I hope that's been helpful for you today. If you want to know more information about how to get a saliva test done, just drop me a line or put a comment, send me a personal message, or send me an email at leanne@leanneboyd.com. Very easy email. I've made that for a reason, just who I am. So thank you for joining me today for another edition of Cuppa Courage Tips. I hope that's been helpful and shed some light on how your hormones act, how they are in your body, and what you can do about it. What I really suggest is to get that hormone test done if this is relating so much to you, and then go from there and seek out a really good natural health professional that can help you go in the right path to get you back to normal again. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week with another edition of Cuppa Courage Tips from Fearlessly Free Women. Thank you. Have a great weekend ahead. Bye.